The crystal flute of champagne felt like a lead weight in my hand. The bubbles, once celebratory, now looked like 1,000 tiny, mocking eyes. I, Arthur Pendleton, 64 years old, stood frozen amidst the glittering crowd at my grandson's christening, watching my daughter, Chloe, raise her glass to the man I had always wished had been my father. His name was Charles Whitlock. To Charles, Chloe's voice, clear and resonant, cut through the polite hum of conversation in the opulent ballroom of the Grand Manor in downtown Boston. You stepped into my life when I needed guidance the most. You showed me what strength and compassion truly look like. You have been my rock, my confidant, and the father of my heart. And to my son, Leo, she said, her voice softening as she gazed at the baby in her mother's arms, I promise you will know the love of this incredible man. He will be the only grandfather you ever need to know. The words didn't just hit me. They were a surgical strike, precise and devastating. The only grandfather. Not a wonderful grandfather, not one of his amazing grandfathers, the only one. In that single calculated phrase, 38 years of my life, of sacrifice, of worry, of pure, unadulterated love were neatly excised from the narrative. I didn't flinch. A lifetime of weathering professional setbacks and personal heartaches had taught me the value of a stoic mask. I simply took a slow, deliberate sip of champagne, the expensive vintage tasting like ash on my tongue. The party was a masterpiece of curated perfection, a testament to the world my daughter and her husband, Julian Croft, now inhabited. Julian was a rising star at Sterling & Page, a prestigious legal firm. His colleagues and their impeccably dressed wives milled about, their conversations a low murmur of mergers, acquisitions, and European vacations. My side of the family was a small, stark island in this sea of affluence. My younger sister, Margaret, and her husband, Ben, both school teachers who looked slightly overwhelmed by the spectacle. I stood at the designated family table, a mere observer in my own daughter's life. Chloe glowed with the radiant beauty of new motherhood, her auburn hair swept into an elegant chignon, her emerald green gown costing more than my first car. Julian stood possessively beside her, his hand on the small of her back, playing the part of the proud patriarch to the hilt. And there he was, Charles Whitlock, my ex-wife's second husband. He beamed, his face a mask of humble triumph, accepting the pats on the back and the murmured congratulations as if he'd single-handedly guided Chloe through every storm life had offered. He'd entered the picture when Chloe was 17, the hard years, the sleepless nights with a colicky infant, the frantic trips to the emergency room when she'd fallen from the monkey bars, the painstaking help with fifth-grade science projects, the awkward, tear-filled conversations about puberty and broken teenage hearts were all mine. Charles got the polished, nearly finished product. He got to be the hero who bought her a convertible for her graduation, who paid for her semester abroad in Florence, who connected her with the internship at Sterling & Page where she'd met Julian. I made my excuses, muttering something about needing a breath of fresh air. No one heard me. They were too enraptured by Charles, the newly anointed family saint. I found refuge on a stone balcony overlooking the Boston skyline. The cold autumn air was a shock to my system, a welcome antidote to the cloying warmth inside. I leaned against the railing, the city lights blurring into a shimmering tapestry as a cold, hard clarity settled in my chest. This wasn't a sudden outburst from Chloe. It was the culmination of a long, slow drift I had been too blind or too hopeful to acknowledge. 38 years ago, my wife Isabel had looked at our 6-month-old daughter and the modest life I, an electrical engineer, could provide and decided she wanted more. She left for a corporate lawyer from Hartford, Connecticut, leaving behind a note and a void I had to learn to fill alone. I could have remarried. There were opportunities, but my focus had been absolute, to be the best father I could be. I took on extra consulting work, sacrificing career advancement for flexibility. I packed lunches, helped with calculus, sat through endless dance recitals, and saved every spare penny for her college fund. Chloe was my universe. I remembered the first time she'd asked about her mother. She was 7, sitting at our Formica kitchen table, drawing with crayons. "Daddy," she asked, her voice serious, "did I make Mommy go away?" My heart had shattered. I gathered her in my arms and told her the truth I had crafted to protect her. "No, my love. Sometimes grown-ups get lost and make bad choices. It had nothing to do with you. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love you more than anything in this world." I meant it with every fiber of my being. For 17 years, it was us against the world. I'd taught her to drive in an empty church parking lot, my hand white-knuckled on the dashboard. I helped her navigate the treacherous social waters of high school. When she got her acceptance letter to Brown University, she jumped into my arms, sobbing with joy. "I couldn't have done it without you, Daddy. You're my hero." That was 6 months before Isabel, now remarried to Charles, decided to re-enter the picture. Charles was a partner at a venture capital firm. He drove a Jaguar, lived in a Beacon Hill townhouse, and vacationed in Gstaad. Suddenly, my practical, down-to-earth daughter was spending weekends in a guest suite larger than our apartment. Charles took her shopping on Newbury Street, bought her a MacBook Pro, and talked about networking and investment portfolios. I should have seen the shift. The subtle comparisons began. "Charles says this apartment is in a declining neighborhood," or "Charles thinks a degree in English literature isn't a strategic career move." My opinions, once gospel, were now being weighed against the wisdom of Charles Whitlock. When she got her engagement to Julian, it was Charles who walked her down the aisle. She'd asked me to give a reading, a poem by Keats. "It's more meaningful, Daddy," she'd said, her hand on my arm. "Anyone can walk someone down an aisle, but you're the one who taught me about real, enduring love." I had been deeply touched then. Now, I saw it for what it was, a consolation prize, a graceful way to sideline me. The trust fund had been my idea, a sum of $2.5 million established when Chloe turned 25, with provisions for her future children. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Diana Reed, had insisted on including specific conditions. "It's standard protection, Arthur," she'd said, her pen tapping the document. "A familial continuity clause. It stipulates that the beneficiary must maintain a respectful and acknowledged relationship with the grantor. It includes regular contact, inclusion in significant family events, and public recognition of the familial bond. If these conditions are violated, the trust can be dissolved or reallocated." I had laughed it off. "Diana, that's for paranoid old misers. This is Chloe, my daughter. I'd trust her with my life." Diana had simply given me a level look. "People change, Arthur. Money changes them faster. It's not about trust. It's about ensuring your intentions are honored no matter what." Reluctantly, I had agreed to include the clause, never imagining it would be invoked. Now, standing in the cold night air, I knew. Diana's paranoia was my prescience. I drove home to my quiet condo in Cambridge. The rooms, usually a comforting haven of books and blueprints, felt stifling and empty. I went straight to my study and unlocked the filing cabinet. The trust documents were there, exactly where I'd placed them a decade ago. I spread the thick vellum pages across my desk and read every word, every subclause, every legalese-laden provision. Public disavowal, disrespect, or intentional exclusion of the grantor from familial recognition or significant life events shall be deemed a material breach. There it was, the legal translation of a sledgehammer to the heart. Diana's familial continuity clause. My daughter's toast wasn't just an emotional slip. It was a legally actionable revocation of my place in her family. This wasn't about the money. The money was just the tool. This was about consequence.
It was about teaching my daughter that words have weight, that history cannot be rewritten for convenience, and that some betrayals fracture a relationship beyond repair. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Thank you for coming today, Dad. It meant a lot to have you there." I stared at the message, the hypocrisy of it burning my eyes. Too little, too late. First thing Monday morning, I called Diana Reed. "Arthur," she said, her voice crisp and deficient. "It's been a while. What can I do for you?" I told her everything. The toast, the words, the cold certainty that had taken root in my soul. When I finished, there was a brief silence on the other end.
"I see," Diana said, her tone all business now. "And you want to initiate the reallocation process?" "Yes." "Based on the clause, her public statement constitutes a clear breach. We'll need a sworn affidavit from a witness to the event. Your sister, perhaps?" "Margaret will do it." "And the new beneficiary?" Diana asked. "The clause allows for reallocation to a secondary beneficiary of your choosing, often a charitable organization." I had already decided. My godson, Ethan. Ethan was the son of my oldest friend, Marcus. Marcus had been my college roommate, my best man, and the brother I never had. When he and his wife Lena died in a small plane crash 8 years ago, I'd stepped in. I'd helped Ethan's grandmother, Rosa, raise him. I'd taught him to throw a baseball, attended his high school graduation, and helped him move into his dorm at MIT. He was studying engineering, just like I had. He called me Uncle Art, and meant it. He valued my guidance, my time, my presence in his life. He was the son I never had. And now he would have the future I had intended for my own blood. "Very well," Diana said. I could hear the scratch of her pen on paper. "I'll draft the notification and the transfer documents. Once we file this, Arthur, there's no going back. It will burn every bridge between you and Chloe." "She lit the match, Diana," I said, my voice steady. "I'm just watching the fire burn." The papers were served to Chloe at her Louisburg Square home 4 days later. I didn't need to be there to imagine the scene. Diana's process server was professional and implacable. My phone rang 17 minutes later. "Dad, what in God's name is this?" Chloe's voice was a shrill wire of panic and anger. "I just had a woman hand me a stack of legal documents. She said I was in violation of a trust clause? What is going on?" "It's all explained in the documents, Chloe. I'd suggest you read them carefully with your husband. He is a lawyer after all." "This is insane. It says I've disavowed you? That's ridiculous. I respect you." "Do you?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. I was standing in my workshop, running my hand over a piece of finely sanded oak, the tactile sensation grounding me. "Of course I do. You were at the christening. You were at the family table." "And what did you say during your toast? Word for word, Chloe." The silence on the other end was profound. I could almost hear her mind racing, trying to backtrack, to reframe. "Dad, I was emotional. It was a beautiful, overwhelming day. I wasn't thinking about legal definitions. Charles has been so good to me. I just wanted to honor him. I didn't mean to exclude you." "You said he would be the only grandfather Leo would ever need to know. In front of 200 people. That sounds like exclusion to me. It sounds like erasure." She began to cry, the sobs theatrical and wrenching. "Please, Dad, don't do this. We can fix this. I'll make a public apology. I'll announce it at the next family gathering. I'll tell everyone how much you mean to me, to Leo." "It's too late for that." "Dad, you have to understand. Julian's firm, they're in the middle of securing a massive client, an international conglomerate. They value family stability, discretion. If this gets out, if there's any whiff of scandal, it could ruin him. His career could be over." A cold smile touched my lips. "I hadn't considered that. Your husband's career is not my concern. Perhaps you should have considered his professional stability before you decided to publicly dismiss your father." "You're being so cruel, so vindictive. This is exactly why Mom couldn't live with you.
You're cold, and you never forgive anything." The words hung in the air, toxic and final. "Is that what you believe?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that." "Yes, you did. You've just made everything perfectly clear." I ended the call and turned off my phone. The silence in my workshop was a blessing. The fallout began immediately. Julian, the shrewd lawyer, understood the gravity of the situation instantly. He called me himself the next day, his voice slick with conciliatory professionalism. "Arthur, Julian here, I think we've had a terrible misunderstanding. Chloe's devastated. She loves you deeply. This toast? It was a misstep, a poor choice of words in an emotional moment. Surely we can resolve this like reasonable adults. What would it take to make this right?" "It can't be made right. Arthur, please." His voice tightened, the professionalism cracking to reveal the panic beneath. "This situation, it's having repercussions. The partners at Sterling and Page are asking questions. This client I mentioned, they're getting nervous. Family drama is a red flag for them. We're talking about 9-figure deals here."
"Then I suggest you should have managed your family better," I said flatly, and hung up. The true depth of Chloe's character was revealed a week later. Rosa, Ethan's grandmother, called me, her voice trembling with fury. "Arthur, you need to see this. Ethan showed me on the computer." She directed me to a private, invitation-only mothers group on Facebook. Chloe was a member, and she had posted a lengthy, devastating message. "Going through something unimaginable," she wrote. "My father, who has always been a bit withdrawn and stubborn, is suddenly showing signs of serious cognitive decline. He's become paranoid and is making wildly irrational financial decisions. He's being manipulated by old family friends who have suddenly reappeared and are preying on his vulnerability. They've convinced him to disinherit me and redirect my son's trust fund to their own grandson. It's a classic case of elder abuse, and I feel so helpless. Has anyone else dealt with this? How do you legally protect a parent from themselves and from predators?" The comments were a waterfall of support and horrifying advice. "Get power of attorney immediately. Contact Adult Protective Services. He needs a competency hearing. Poor you, to be betrayed by your own father and these vultures." She was building a case. If she couldn't guilt me into submission, she would have me declared mentally incompetent, seize control of my assets, and destroy the reputations of Ethan and Rosa in the process. I felt a rage so pure and cold, it was almost peaceful. I screenshotted every page and emailed it all to Diana Reed. Her response came an hour later. "This changes everything. This is not just a breach, it's a legally actionable defamation and a malicious attempt to circumvent the trust conditions. We can now file for a restraining order, accelerate the transfer, and sue for defamation. Her actions prove intent." "Do it," I told her. The game was now in motion. Diana was a master strategist. She didn't just file the lawsuit, she orchestrated its announcement. A discreet yet detailed article appeared in the Boston Globe's business section. "Prominent engineer severs trust over familial disrespect. Daughter countersues, alleging incompetence." The article laid out the facts of the trust's familial continuity clause, described the christening toast, and included the fact that Mr. Pendleton had recently undergone and aced a full independent psychological evaluation commissioned by his lawyer. The effect on Julian's career was catastrophic. The 9-figure client vanished. The partners at Sterling and Page, fearing for the firm's reputation, asked Julian to take an indefinite leave of absence. The whispers in Boston's social circles were merciless. Chloe was publicly painted not as a victim, but as a calculating, ungrateful daughter. Isabel called me, her voice screeching down the line. "Arthur, have you lost your mind? You're destroying our daughter's life over a simple compliment to Charles. You're humiliating us all. This is about your jealousy, nothing more."
This is about Chloe's choices, Isabel. She chose to disrespect me, she chose to lie and attempt to have me declared insane. You made your choices 38 years ago. Now Chloe is living with the consequences of hers. The defamation suit was settled quickly and quietly. Chloe retracted every statement in a legally binding public affidavit. The trust fund was irrevocably transferred to Ethan. Julian, his reputation in tatters, was eventually encouraged to resign from Sterling and Page. 6 months later, I was in my workshop, helping Ethan assemble a complicated robotic arm for his engineering project. Rosa was in the kitchen, humming while she made us lunch. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was Phoenix, Arizona. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to the message. It was Chloe. Her voice was flat, drained of all its former vibrancy. Dad, it's me. Julian, he's taken a job here in Phoenix. It's a fresh start. We're leaving next week. I just wanted to say goodbye. And I'm sorry for everything. I deleted the message. Some goodbyes are long overdue. I looked at Ethan, frowning in concentration as he soldered a tiny wire. Uncle Ott, can you hand me the multimeter? Right here, son. He smiled, a genuine, grateful smile. Couldn't have done this without you. This was what family was meant to be. Not an obligation, but a choice. Not a performance, but a partnership. The consequences for Chloe were severe and lasting, but they were of their own making. She had learned the hard way that while you can choose your allegiances, you cannot choose the consequences of betraying the ones who loved you first. And I had learned that the strongest foundations are not built on blood, but on respect, loyalty, and the love we choose to give and honor every day.